Okay, it is 4:32, and we will call this meeting of Dunn County's Judiciary and Law Committee to order. First item is the call of the roll. Supervisor Wilsey is excused. Supervisor Gilbert is absent. Supervisor Jetson is here, Supervisor Vandermeulen, and myself. So we have a quorum. The next item is the approval of the minutes from the April 22nd meeting. And I will need a motion to approve those minutes. Supervisor Vandermeulen. Supervisor Jetson seconds. Any comments or changes to the minutes? Or additions, I should say. Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye. Aye. Minutes are approved. Public comments. Any public comments? No public comments. And we will move on to the staff reports. I think I mentioned a couple months ago or last month, and Supervisor Jetson was at your son's wedding, I believe. But if when we go through the reports, if you wouldn't mind just giving a brief little background of a little more in depth of what you do in your departments for the benefit of Supervisor Jetson, I would appreciate that. So first is the Criminal Justice Collaboration Council. Sarah, if you could introduce yourself and let us know.
Thank you.
How it's going.
I'm Sarah Benedict. I'm the Criminal Justice Collaboration Director, I guess, of our division. Our division is a small division of administration, but I also serve as the coordinator for our Criminal Justice Collaboration Council. I did just last week already, did a presentation, the annual presentation. So hopefully you recall a face there. But our purpose of the CJCC really is to pull together the agencies and leaders and stakeholders of the criminal justice collaborating of the system, the criminal justice system, and really look at best practices, what our local data is, what our local challenges are, so we can work together to improve our system. So that's what I do, and we have a number of different programs and grants that are administered out of my office, but some of the collaborative staff are embedded in other departments like the jail and the sheriff's office. But we really work together collaboratively to ultimately make Dunn County a safer and less impacted by crime community, I guess. I have nothing further to add to my report unless there's questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions for Sarah from her report? I don't think so. Thank you. Next up is the district attorney, Andrea.
Hi, I think Supervisor Jetson knows me from his UW Stout police work, and I'm glad to see that you're on the committee. I think you retired, right?
I did.
And then you're just back into.
Well, I made it about 6 weeks into retirement, and now I'm working in the most popular county in the United States, Hennepin County.
Oh.
I work at the Minneapolis Police Department.
Oh, nice. Nice. So, and as you're aware, law enforcement sends reports or citations to our office, and then our office issues charges based on the evidence, and then sees it through the court system. As far as update from my packet, we're really spending a lot of time making sure our accounts on evidence.com are ready to go. I think it will be a big improvement for our office, but is also a lot of changes always are difficult. So spending a lot of time on that, and nothing else to add.
Thank you. Any questions for the district attorney?
Oh, yeah. So we also prosecute juvenile matters. I'm sure Don's aware of that too. So if there's any type of juvenile delinquency or frequently the most common child in need of protection services cases are usually when there's, a parent who's sometimes there's abuse alleged by the parent, or if a parent is having addiction issues, that's probably the most common that we have where there's a proceeding initiated to ensure that those children are protected. What else did I miss, Chris? Oh, yes. And then victim witness as well. So if there's a victim-related crime, our office has a victim witness coordinator and 2 full-time victim witness assistants who ensure that victim rights are complied with, which is a mandated service under the statute, Chapter 950, in which we need to inform the victims of what's going on in the case and of their right to speak at any proceeding, to provide any input regarding a no contact, and then also if there's restitution or other outcomes they want on the case, or if they want to confer with the prosecutor, then they make arrangements to have those meetings and ensure that victims are informed.
Thank you. And thanks for the suggestion, Chris. Next up is child support. Josie.
Hi there, I'm Josie LaLiberty. I also gave my annual report this past Wednesday, and I highlighted the area of paternity establishment. And the reason I did that was because there is a video, it is on my website, that Katie's going to play that talks about the other services of my agency, but it really sort of glosses over the paternity piece. So if Katie wants to cue up that video.
We understand that you may have questions about the child support program. What is it and how does it work? Basically, child support is payments that one parent makes to either the child's other parent or legal guardian to help with the costs of raising a child. Parents and guardians can receive services from their local child support office. Here are the top services the program offers. Open a child support case. Locate the other parent. Establish parentage. Establish a support order. Set up payment. Enforce the support order. And review the order. To open a child support case, you'll need to complete an application with your local child support office. And if you receive help from the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program, also referred to as TANF, check with your local child support office to see if a child support case is already open. The first thing we need to know is where the other parent lives or works. There's no guarantee we'll find the other parent, but the more information you provide, like the other parent's date of birth and social security number, the easier it'll be. After we find the parent, then we can establish parentage, if it hasn't already been established. Next, we can establish the child support order and determine the amount of payment. We use child support guidelines to calculate how much a parent should contribute to the child's financial support. If you already have a child support order, we don't need to establish a new one. The most common way we set up payment is to deduct the payment from the parent's paycheck and distribute the money to the other parent or guardian. It's an easy way to make and keep a record of child support payments. When the parent doesn't pay the full amount or doesn't pay at all, we use enforcement remedies like withholding child support from paychecks, unemployment, or workers' compensation benefits, intercepting income tax refunds, and reporting delinquent child support payments to credit reporting bureaus. Either parent can ask their local child support office to review their child support order 3 years after the order is set. They can also request a review before the 3 years if they experience substantial changes in circumstances, like job loss or incarceration. We hope this answered some of your questions about child support. To learn more, contact your state or tribal child support office. Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services at taxpayer expense.
So I don't know if that answers all of your questions about what my office does, but so we're always in this loop of establishing orders, enforcing them throughout the life of the case, reviewing them as appropriate, and then collecting any debt on the back end that might exist. We have the authority to keep our cases open. Statute of limitations expires when the youngest child on the case turns 39. Our goal is to, of course, have them closed up long before then, but that's when. So the money. People ask, well, what happens after that point? It's still an obligation. It's still due and owed. It's just you no longer get the services of my office to try to collect it. I think there was something else I was going to mention. Do you have any questions, anybody? No?
I was just curious, since your office deals with enforcement, do you have more security measures in place to deal with angry people than some of the other offices?
Sure. So I don't necessarily know that my office has any more or less security measures than anyone else in the judicial center does. We have, I believe it's bullet resistant glass at our front counter, and the entrance back to like the employees' offices is through a locked security door. We do have a camera in our lobby, and they're talking about redoing the cameras throughout the judicial center. And one of the asks is to get one in our conference room, which is where we do meet face to face with individuals and where like the DNA testing takes place. So if something bad were going to happen, it would be more likely there. But we do have we have some emergency buttons throughout that can be hit, which brings the whole sheriff's department, I think, into our space. But then we also have other less, just like please come from the bailiffs to come. They also do a really good job because they do watch the monitors. So I had someone who was just a talker of their hands. So they were very animated and they could see that in the camera, and they came down to make sure everything okay in here. Yeah. So, yeah, yeah. But generally, we know we're dealing with highly emotional issues. And so we're pretty well versed in trying to de-escalate and trying to be trauma informed in our approach to dealing with people. And overall everybody's pretty okay. Mhm.
Thanks for the background, Josie. Looks like we don't have any more questions. And we will move on to emergency management and 911. Melissa?
Thank you. Dunn, working at UW Stout, is fairly familiar with what we do in the communication center. So maybe I'll talk a little bit about the emergency management portion of my office. So in emergency management, we do kind of focus on four things. We focus on mitigation, preparedness for our community, and then of course response and recovery. And we'd like to focus heavy on the mitigation and preparedness so that we don't have to work on response and recovery. But a lot of those things in our office mean working with our community members as far as some of the businesses in town that have hazardous chemicals that may impact our community, being prepared for severe weather, which I think is on the horizon here in the next day or two. So just keeping the community aware, giving them points to be prepared, to help themselves in a response and recovery situation. But again, we're always there if the community would need us. And if in my report, I did allude to a recent situation that we had with a cyber situation, which was a little different for us. It was only the second time that we've had to deal with that. So that was kind of a new ask for the community to have our office assist them in that. But yeah, so that's kind of what we do. Like on a daily basis, we basically do a lot of planning and a lot of paperwork to prepare for disasters in hopes that we're ready and make that response and recovery more seamless. So if you have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer them.
Thanks, Melissa.
Mhm.
That incident you mentioned in Colfax that
Mhm.
you detailed in your report. So the computer systems went down there, and what was your response? And was it because the emergency communications are tied up in the computers, or is it like what did you do in that situation?
Really, I just assisted them in getting some assistance from the state. So really, I was just kind of the liaison to kind of work with them to declare a state of an emergency so that they could kind of tap into the state resources with the cyber response team that the state has. So we just kind of worked it very similar to a regular disaster per se, declaring a state of an emergency and then requesting through the state duty officer assistance for the Colfax School District.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then I had one more question. You mentioned that you were working with HR to hire somebody in May, and the report was on the 11th. So
Mhm.
wondering if there's any progress in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. We made an offer late last week, and he did accept, and he starts orientation Wednesday. It happened really fast, but we're just going to keep moving. Yeah, we're just going to keep moving as fast as we can, trying to get ahead. So, yep.
Great.
So he'll start Wednesday.
That's good news.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next is the medical examiner, RC.
Good evening. Excuse me. So I'm Marcy Rosas. I've been part of the medical examiner's office for, I think it's 20 years this year. And Eau Claire County contracts with Dunn County for services. And so there's 4 full-time staff member and 3 part-time and 2 people on call at each time, 1 to cover Eau Claire and 1 to cover Dunn County. But we cross over with each other all the time based on the needs and the case log. Our job is to determine cause and manner of death. We work really closely with law enforcement in making our determinations, and the district attorney's office, the forensic pathologist from Ramsey County in St. Paul, and our toxicology labs. Along with determination of cause and manner of death, we work with the families towards final disposition wishes for their family members and follow-up communication when all testing and determinations are made. And I don't have anything else to add to my report.
All right. Thank you, Marcy. Any questions? All right. I don't see any. Thank you.
Okay.
Next up is the sheriff's office.
I probably don't need to explain to Don a whole lot about what I do, but we've worked just about our entire careers together, and so, but yeah, the sheriff's a constitutionally elected position. My duties are directed by state statute 5927. I have to take custody and run the jail. I have to attend to the courts. I have to serve civil process, keep and maintain the peace in the county. Rescue and recover bodies and waters within the county falls on the sheriff as well. So kind of a lot of duties directed by state statute to my position. 2 divisions, the field services division and jail division, and roughly about 61 full-time employees right now, with including 4 support staff. So it has, yeah. Yeah, I think there was 9 patrol deputies and a sheriff, undersheriff, and lieutenant when I started in '89. So, yeah, we've significantly increased, and 10 patrol officer, or 10 jail dispatchers. So, yeah, other than that, updates to my report. We just, the closing for the deputy applications was, I think, Friday at midnight or something, and we received 15 applications for the deputy sheriff position to replace Sergeant Josh Christensen that just went out on a duty disability due to a wrist injury, making an arrest. The captain of field services and I reviewed those this morning, and there's probably about 10 of them that are even qualified to apply. And there's probably about 5 of them that I can actually hire that are certified and have 60 college credits. So it's going to be grab what we can again in this process. Hopefully we find a good candidate to fill our one current vacancy. Otherwise, fully staffed in the jail, and now only one person short on the patrol side. I mentioned in my report that investigator Brennan Porter was selected to be promoted to the sergeant's position, patrol sergeant's position. He's been with us for 5-6 years and does a very thorough job of investigations, and will be a good addition to our supervisor team.
Good news. Thank you, Sheriff. Anybody have any questions? Yes. That's what I heard. Yes. Well, hope it all goes well before the congratulations. All right. And last but not least, on the staff reports, we have the courts. Katie.
I'm Katie Shalley. I'm the clerk of court in Dunn County. I am an elected official and statutorily responsible for all of the filings that come through the circuit courts, retaining obtaining money, collections for all of court costs ordered by the judges, and issuing civil judgments and recording liens. Jury duty service is a big portion of our office. There's 13 staff members in the clerk of court's office. I work closely with the 3 judges and their 3 judicial assistants. And I also have 3 part-time jury bailiffs that are civil or just public servant bailiffs essentially. So not part of the sheriff's department. I don't have anything else to add to my report that I was submitted unless there's any other questions.
Any questions for Katie? Nope. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Well, it's a pretty light agenda, and no action items for this committee this month. Does anybody have any announcements that they'd like to share?
I don't have any, but I've
Andrea.
never had a former police officer on this committee before. So I'm just sort of interested if Don would be willing to share. Can't recall if has your whole time been at Stout, or it'd just be nice to have a little history if you don't mind sharing.
Absolutely. Well, Don Jetson, and here goes the history. All right. Started around the same time as the sheriff in law enforcement, and began my career at UW Stout. Was there for a couple of years, and then I left and went to the Wisconsin State Patrol. I spent approximately 12 years with the Wisconsin State Patrol, cruising the highways and byways. My primary assignment with them, I was an inspector in St. Croix County. During my duration there, I was instructor at the State Patrol Academy. I taught rules of the road, vehicle equipment. I was a lead firearms instructor for the state. So any other departments that wanted to have a fire instructor on staff would send them to the State Patrol Academy, and I'd teach them how to be a firearms instructor. After about 12 years, I came back to the university. I knew the chief. She called me one day and said, "Hey, I got an opening. I think you'd fit right in here." And I jumped at the chance to come back and work in my home community here, and spent total time at UW Stout was 17 years. I made it about 6 weeks into retirement. My son is a police officer in Richfield, Minnesota, and he said, "Dad, you're too young to retire. Got the perfect job for you." And so I jumped over to Minnesota, and I am currently working at the Minneapolis airport as a police officer there. A little more history on my background, as we're talking about emergency management. I used to be an adjunct instructor at Texas A&M. I used to teach with Department of Homeland Security. A little course called Critical Incident Management, and hey, it's everything that your emergency management team does here in Dunn County, and it's all about mitigating the circumstance from the beginning of something happening and wrapping it up to the end, whether it be a natural disaster, a shooting, chemical spill, something like that. And I used to do a lot of tabletop exercises. I've taught at a variety of institutes across the nation for the Department of Homeland Security. And last week I just completed a lovely day at the airport for a airplane crash scenario that we did on a tabletop, and worked with all the teams that came together for that. So a little bit of emergency management in my history, a little bit of hazardous materials in my history, and a whole variety of things that come along with a career in law enforcement. So
Thank you, Supervisor Jetson. It's good to have you on the committee. For sure. Seems like a perfect fit. Next meeting is June 24th in this room at 4:30, and we are adjourned.